Hi, folks, and welcome back to the Pole Barn of Bad Decisions and Broken Dreams, where the coffee's always hot. Nope, not so much. But we'll continue to make questionable decisions on our coffee choices. Today we're working on the 1966 Chevy Nova, and we're doing some more wiring. You may have seen me use this product here, and that is Lanacoat. And I get that at West Marine, and it is a lanolin-based product that is absolutely incredible at staying off corrosion. It's a very, very thick product. It never dries. It always stays kind of gummy. And you put that on any steel surface and it will more than likely never rust again. I put a tire carrier on my 94 Jeep Wrangler and used that where the latch slid up and connected. And it's been on there for at least 20 years, not even a bit of rust on it. So Lanacoat, I said I got this at West Marine or Port Supply, and this stuff is incredible at staying off corrosion. So another tip for wire ties is if you take a wire tie and you put it on something and then you cut the tab off, and you can see that it has a tiny sharp edge there. Now, if you take a lighter and you heat up the end, it will melt the end of that wire tie, and you'll never cut your hands or your arms or anything reaching up into anything when you go to work on something. So if you melt the edge of a wire tie, that takes off the sharp edge, and you won't have problems with getting poked by them.
We've got our wiring harness and our instructions laid out with all of our parts. We're putting in a new wiring harness system into the 1966 Chevy Nova. So we'll start reading these instructions and get this harness installed. So the first thing we want to do before we start taking all the wiring out is get a good video of actually where everything is behind the dashboard. We've got the wiring all removed from behind the dashboard, and we've left the harness that goes up to the dome light because we'll be retaining that because I don't want to take down the headliner to replace that harness. The wiring harness from the passenger side of the car that goes back to the tail lights, the fuel tank sending unit, and the brake lights has been removed but left in place, and when we replace that, we'll remove that wiring harness as needed. We've got our wiring harness laid out on the top of the 94 Jeep Wrangler just to kind of take a look at things and see how things are run. This is the engine compartment branch of the wiring harness. And we've got the under dash part of the branch. And then back to the tail lights is the rear of the car. Here's a look at the fuse block that comes with it. And we've got a block-off plate for the firewall. The block-off plate is going to cover this square hole where the bulkhead connector used to be. And now up inside the 1966 Nova, there's the inside of the firewall where the hole where the bulkhead connector used to be. That's where the block-off plate is going to get installed. We'll figure out how that's the orientation of that block-off plate and see the best way to put that in. None of the holes actually line up with the firewall, so it's going to have to be a custom installation to figure out how to route these wires through the firewall. The orientation for the block-off plate is as pictured here, and Painless conveniently added holes where the arrows are that would mount directly to the old location of the firewall bulkhead connector. You can see the original bulkhead connector mounting locations here in this clip. What we're going to have to do is probably enlarge those holes and use some nut zerts so installation is a little bit easier in case we have to remove it and move some stuff around. We've got that block-off plate temporarily installed, and if you'll notice in the circled areas, those are the mounting holes for the fuse block. And it appears that the top mounting hole is going to be inside an open area, so we're not going to be able to do any kind of mounting with nut zerts as far as the fuse block goes. But we will be able to use nut zerts in the holes to mount the block-off plate. Here is the engine compartment firewall, and you can see where I've marked on the firewall itself where we're going to have to clearance that out so we can actually put a bolt on the back side of it. The two zip screws that are in there, that's what's holding that mounting plate on, which will work well with nut zerts. We're back on the 1966 Nova project, and we're installing the painless wiring harness. As you can see, we've started running the wires through the firewall, and I'll take you inside and show you what we've done to the interior on the vehicle. We've installed the adapter bracket or plate on the firewall, and we've sealed it up so water doesn't enter the vehicle while the car's running. We've also started running some of the wires into the engine bay to begin the wiring process for the engine bay components. You should also know that there are no sponsorships in this video. I purchased the wiring harness, the painless wiring harness, with my own money, and I plan on giving an honest opinion of what I think of the painless wiring harness installation on the 1966 Nova project. I've taken and started the wrap on the wiring harness behind the fuse block to protect it from abrasion, and now we've installed the fuse block.
So on these electrical connections that we're putting on the wiring, these are the connections that the painless wiring system comes with. And I don't like these giant insulators that come on the connectors. I like the insulator-less connectors. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull that off, and we just take a couple of needle nose pliers. We're going to hold on to it, and they come off pretty easily. All you got to do is give it a little twist, and that will slide right off. Then what we can do is we can crimp that on the wire and use our shrink wrap and make that installation look a whole lot cleaner. What we're doing here is putting the wire protection on. We bundle as many wires as we can, but sometimes we have to do just a single wire. And that expands, and you run it down the wire. Hi, folks. I'm Brian Kane, and welcome back to the Pole Barn of Bad Decisions, Broken Dreams, where the coffee's always hot. Nope, not so much. It's kind of like life. Sometimes disappointing and lukewarm. But we're going to move on. We're going to do a little work today. We've got some wiring going on today, and we've got all of our things laid out here that we're going to be needing to work on the 1966 Chevy Nova. We've got an original wiring diagram here. Show you a picture of that in a second. We've got our list of things that need to be taken care of. Got some parts here that we're going to be installing, and we've got our painless wiring diagram and our repair manual here so we can look up things. We've also got an extra relay here that I'm going to show you. There's a couple of different kinds of relays. We're using a 4-pin relay panel on the 66 Nova today. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be wiring up some components that need a little bit higher amperage than the standard wiring probably should handle. So I got these relay panels here off the Jungle website, and we're going to install those. They're pre-wired. We've got this one here has 8 circuits with 2 relays, and this one has 4 relays with 12 circuits. And I think we're going to be using this one because the things that we're going to be wiring up that need higher amperage is going to be our fog lights. We're going to go ahead and wire in our headlights to those relays. We have to have fans for the cooling system because we're going to be putting on an electric fan system. We've also got an air conditioner that eventually is going to be installed, and we need to wire that up as well. So that'll be controlled by a relay as well. So we'll get you in the car, show you what we're doing. We've got a couple of problems. The car 12-volt system uses a ground on the original horn relay. And that's another item that we're going to be using on our relay boards, is controlling the horns that we're installing. And the old horn relay was ground controlled. Now we've got both of our relay boards here, and they are positive controlled, which isn't a tough thing to change. Not a big deal. It just gets wired up a little bit differently. And the other problem is that, we've got some wires that we just don't understand. We're going to have to look into it. And I'm not bad at 12-volt wiring, but I'm definitely not a professional. So we're going to need to figure out how to wire these things up correctly, get those circuits protected, and get it installed. Sit back, relax, grab yourself a cup of coffee, and enjoy the video. Thank you. So we've got our wiring system diagram here, and you can see our horn relays here, and it is ground controlled on this black wire right here, which goes up over here, down, and into the steering column right here. So what we need to do is we need to trace these wires out on the painless wiring diagram, or the painless wiring system, and try and figure out where we need to hook up the correct wires. We're going to be using a 4-pin relay for our relay boards on this, but there are a couple of different kinds of relays that are used. This here is a 5-pin relay, and you can see, get this in here, you can see right here is a diode, and that is on the control circuit between the coils on that relay. And if you have a relay that has that diode in there, if you hook it up backwards, what's going to happen is you're going to burn that relay out, and that diode's not going to be functional anymore, and it won't work. So, but the 4-pin relay will work just fine for what we're doing. We'll use the 85 and 86 as our control circuit, and then the 30 and 87 to provide power to those horns. Here we have our 2 relay wiring panel with 6 circuits. You can see that that's pre-wired, and it's not a bad part. So we're actually going to be using the 4 relay panel, and that is also pre-wired. We'll save this one for another project, or we'll put it on something different in the future on the 66 Nova. When we get into the Nova, we've got a couple of tools here that we're going to be using. We've got our 12-volt meter here. We've got a little probe that we can use, and we've got some jumper wires that can be used. And what we'll be doing is we're going to be checking actually resistance to those wires, figuring out where they run, where they come out on the painless wiring harness, and what we need to hook them up to. So we're going to be tracing those wires using resistance. So we find the wire inside the Nova, we come out to the outside, find the correct wire that is in the harness in the engine bay, figure out what we've got going and how to wire that up correctly for these wiring relay panels. So here we have our setup and a simple diagram of the 4-pin relay. Got our 4-pin relay right here with pin 85, pin 37, pin 86, and pin 30. And this is a simple relay to start up a light, say for our fog lights on the 1966 Chevy Nova. We've got our battery here, we've got our light here, And what we're going to do is we're going to take, and of course our battery is going to go to ground, which is going to be our common ground. Our light is connected to common ground on one side. And we're going to bring power in to pin 30 to a protected 30 amp fuse. Now, in all honesty, this fuse should be as close to the battery as possible for safety. We don't want something connecting to ground here and then you've got a dead short right here in the system. So this 30 amp fuse will probably be closer to the battery itself or what we use for our power. This could be either the battery or it could be the battery through the alternator input wire. So we've got our wire going in off positive power, which is going to provide power to pin 30. We've got our power going out on 37, going to the light, and then with a good ground, it's going to light the light up. We've got our switch on pin 85, and when that switch is closed, that's going to provide power to here. It's going to connect the 30 and the 37 to the light. And that's a simple wiring diagram for a light on a 4-pin relay. Our control switch here is also going to be connected to our positive power, and that will either be connected through the fuse box in some type of ignition or accessory wiring. So we've got our power coming in to our switch, which is going to provide the power to pin 85 to connect pin 30 and 37 and light our light up. We're back working on the 1966 Chevy Nova, and progress so far. We've got our wires for the electrical system all sheeted and ends put on them. We've got all of our battery cables made up to install on the vehicle. We've got a couple more wires here, and we'll go through those and get those set up. We've got like the electric choke wire, and there's a fan relay wire in there. We've got our wiper motor wires that have to be sheathed up and connected to the wiper system, and we're going to get those all taken care of in the next video doing that. Well, folks, that is going to complete this video on wiring the 1966 Chevy Nova. I want to thank everybody for staying till the end. I appreciate it. Appreciate all the comments that come in. If you see anything that doesn't look right or you don't agree with, definitely put that down in the comments. I'm always looking for constructive criticism on my videos. If you've got a way that I can make my my videos better, that would be fantastic. Appreciate it. Put that in the comments. Please like and subscribe. That gives us the ability to create more videos that you can enjoy. Thanks, and you folks have a good day.